Islam and greetings, nieces and nephews, brothers and sisters, and Moriscos. I thought now would be a good time to teach you all some real story. 1,000 apologies. Wait a minute. Pardon me. I'm going to teach you how this land and every other land on the plane of Earth came to be under Christian rule. Now, I am sure that there are remnants of this particular record still available. The record I'm speaking of is the Secret Treaty of Verona of 1213. The Secret Treaty of Verona. The Secret Treaty of Verona was a pact made between Pope Innocent III and King John of England. Now, this is how it went down. Pay attention. Pay attention. I think it was King William before John became king. And because King William despised the church so much, he made it law that no English lands must ever or will ever belong to the Church of Rome. Now, this is King William. He wasn't ready to give up his sovereignty. Oh, turn it over to the church. Okay, so John is king now. What King William did was he put the whole of England in Mortmain. Now, what Mortmain translates into is the dead man's hand. England was in the dead man's hand. And if you've ever tried to get a dead man's hand open to obtain something from it, you know there's more than a notion, don't you? So England was in Mortmain. King William saw to that. And John, being the devout Christian that he was, he now sat the throne of England. Well, the Pope sends Stephen Langton to England. Now, just so that you know who all the players are, Stephen Langton was to become the Archbishop of Canterbury. This is who Stephen Langton was to be in England. Well, John knew that there was no way in hell he could induce or seduce any of those lords and barons and knights to turn their lands over to the church. This was never going to happen. So, Stephen shows up, and I'm sure the conversation went something like this. Good afternoon, I'm Stephen Langton, and I'm going to be the Archbishop of Canterbury here. John said, why don't you come on in, we'll grab a little something to eat. But I gotta tell you, I don't think I can do that. I really don't think I can do that. Langton says, well, it did come from the big cheese, our boss, and, he's got connection with, the boss. So, Stephen Langton as he expresses the church's intent to rule England, because you see, wherever there is an archbishop of the church, that is the governor of that piece of Rome. He is just like an ambassador. Wherever there is an archbishop, that place becomes an embassy, and it is property of Rome. Well, after Stephen Langton got full and, his hunger and thirst was satisfied, and spent the night, in the palace, him and King John, they kicked it for a little bit, did a little bit of politicking. And in the morning, Stephen rode out. Well, mail comes one day, and there's a letter from Pope Innocent III, and it's addressed to John. The letter read something like this. Well, John, considering you've been lapsed for a while, and I've sent an emissary to establish a satellite office there, and you refused my emissary. John replied, well, it's not as if I gave him one of those 300 kicks from Cersei, but I got limits to the things I can do. Pope Innocent told him, well, if you do not allow my representative Langton here to become the Archbishop of Canterbury, you shall be excommunicated forthwith. Well, at that point, King John just about lost his mind. He would rather lie down on red-hot scimitars than be excommunicated. So, he went completely against the law of Mortman. He did. Stephen Langton came back. Stephen Langton became the Archbishop of Canterbury. Now, that's the deal about that part of the secret treaty of Verona. Well, I may as well tell you what followed, because in the words of old Paul Harvey, this is the rest of the story. Well, a couple of years after King John had given away the lands of the earls and dukes and barons and lords of England, it wasn't long after that these noblemen, they kind of expressed their displeasure at King John. And so they put knives and swords to King John's throat. What came out of that is called the Magna Carta of 1215. That is why the Magna Carta was written. Why they have American school children studying it has always been a mystery to me. Especially since they're told that this is not England. Why would they need to study the Magna Carta? Because that is the agreement that those noblemen and King John came to. Because I'm sure none of them wanted to go down in history as being a king killer. But John had no right or authority to give their lands to the church. And so that is why and when the Magna Carta was written, drafted, drawn up, and signed. But it has absolutely nothing to do in an American educational curriculum. Absolutely nothing. But now, the secret treaty of Verona in it, after the Archbishop was thoroughly ensconced in his new position as the governor of England, as a representative, as a representative of the Church of Rome. The church now owned England. So, in this secret Treaty of Verona, this is when Pope Innocent III declared all of the lands of earth vacant. Yes, that is when all of the lands of earth were declared vacant.